I've created the perfect and worst manager in FM23. I've given the perfect manager to Scunthorpe United, who are currently bottom of the National League. And I've given the worst manager to Arsenal, who are currently top of the Premier League. I've locked these managers into their contracts for 20 seasons, and we're going to simulate their careers to find out what they can achieve. At the end of the 20 seasons, they swap clubs, and we'll keep going into the future to find out how they perform. So the question is, how far can the perfect manager take Scunthorpe United? Or are Scunthorpe just so terrible they're beyond help from the perfect manager? And can the worst manager stop Arsenal from successive relegations? Or will the staff and the playing squad around the worst manager be enough to make up for that manager, not even knowing what a football is? Well, let's find out. So the pre-season preview has Arsenal coming in 6th place in the Premier League. So for me, anything in the top half is a massive success for the worst manager. And in season 1, they came 12th, which actually is probably a bit better than I was expecting. I thought they'd be a little bit lower down the table because this manager is atrocious, but I suppose the staff around him and the players were good enough to not get relegated. But you wouldn't ordinarily see Arsenal in 12th place in Football Manager 2023. So clearly, the worst manager has had a negative effect on the club. Scunthorpe have a pre-season prediction of 5th though, so the perfect manager really should be able to take them to the title this season. Let's see how they get on in season... Relegated. They got relegated. What on earth was the perfect manager doing? I mean, look at him. He's perfect. They just never got going by looks of things. You know, the odd win against Solihull, Boreham Wood, York. They had a big run to... Well, I say a big run. They had a bit of success towards the end of the season, but it was too little too late. If we jump into season 2, Scunthorpe have gone on to win the National League North by, it looks like, record points. 117 points there, 38 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses. Okay, they had a very good second season and did, I suppose, the bare minimum of winning the National League North. So the perfect manager's taken them that far, but this has been a real letdown so far. As for Arsenal in the Premier League with the worst manager, they've come 5th. This is not working out how I thought it was going to. And heading into season 3, I suspect the perfect manager at Scunthorpe's won the National League, because why not? And I bet Arsenal have won the league. Okay, prediction 1 was not far off. Scunthorpe came 3rd, but they were only a point behind champions Southend. Barrow went on to win the playoff, so Scunthorpe still in the National League. And to be fair, they only lost 1 league game from Christmas onwards. If they just picked up 1 extra win in some of these games that they'd drawn, they would have won the title. And Arsenal came 3rd. The worst manager is doing a fantastic job at Arsenal. He's a long way off Liverpool and Man City, as you can see, but has secured Champions League football. Oh my word, no way. He's won a Europa League. They beat Atalanta in the final 3-0. This worst manager is incredible. They lost 1 game in the entire Europa League this season. That was the first leg of the semi-final against West Ham. They then won the second leg, obviously, to get through to the final. What a run. A trophy for the worst manager. Basically, what this is telling me right now, though, is the manager has no real impact on the squad, because clearly the worst manager should not be winning the Europa League with Arsenal. He's got 1 for everything in attributes, which means he doesn't really know what a football is. So either the players that are around him just make up for it and he just puts them in the right places and they do something, or the staff around him are having a big impact. Imagine if this was in real life. The man that everyone regards as the worst manager of all time wins the Europa League. It would be big news on the One Football app, the sponsors of today's video, the best app to keep up to date with all the latest football news, scores and updates from around the world. I use it to follow Lincoln City, my favourite club, and get all of the club's news through there as well. And I can even watch live football on the app as well, which is fantastic, including select Serie A fixtures every Saturday. So if you want to help me and my channel out, you can download the One Football app completely free from the top line of the description. Anyway, let's speed things up a little bit, shall we? Let's jump 5 years in the future from season 3 to season 8. Scunthorpe have just been relegated from League 2, but it does show the perfect manager got them into the Football League, which is pretty good. However, relegation is not so good. So last time we saw them come 3rd in the league, as you can see. They then dropped down to 11th and then had successive playoff campaigns coming 5th and 4th, and then won the playoffs by coming 2nd. So their first season back in the Football League saw them get relegated. And the only accolade the perfect manager has got so far is the Vanarama National League Manager of the Year in the year they got promoted. Now in season 8, the worst manager has just taken Arsenal to 11th place, so they have dropped down the table a little bit. interesting to see Southampton missing out on the title on goal difference. Since their third place finish, they have been yo-yoing around. The season after that, they dropped down to 11th, then bounced up to 3rd again. Then have had 2 6th places in a row, and now 11th place. But to add to the Europa League, the worst manager has also won a Carabao Cup, so he's doing a great job so far. I'm interested in some of the signings that the Arsenal manager has made, because at this point we're going to start getting to regens, and we don't really know those players at all because they're regens. So I want to see the real life transfers the Arsenal manager has done, because on paper he has got terrible scouting, he's got terrible judgment, he's got terrible negotiation, he's got terrible ability to buy players. So is he buying the right good players for Arsenal, or would it be the director of football? I mean, the first season looks like it's pretty decent, particularly Renato Sanchez is just under 15 million. They spent big on Nicolas Gonzalez. I'm not entirely familiar with him, but he played 153 games for Arsenal, so must have had a bit of a career with them. After that, players like Yuri Tielemans, Jared Bowen, some pretty decent. Zakaria as well is a really good signing. He's also brought in Select, who's a wonder kid in this game, and of course Noni's a really good. So actually, they're bringing in some really top quality players, but they're not doing that well with them. Even Lamptey's a really good signing there. So clearly the manager's not great. Marcus Edwards as well, he's a really good winger. Noah Masongo's a really good player too. 40 minutes quite a lot. Pepe's a great striker as well. So they're bringing in some good players. I presume are just not playing them very well. I mean, you look at that team and it's like, wow, this team is decent. Obviously, we don't know how good these regens are here, but everyone else around them is really good. So the fact they're not getting top 6 finishes at the moment, they are yo-yoing up and down, suggests the manager's not that great, and actually he is hindering the team a bit. Let's jump another 5 years in the future, season 13, and see how they get on. Scunthorpe have just got promoted from the National League. They've just won the playoffs after coming 6th place, which is fantastic stuff for them. But it's really poor for the perfect manager. This guy should know exactly what he's doing, and either Scunthorpe just can't provide what he needs to get them promoted, or he's a fraud. I mean, Scarborough Athletic have just won the title, which is something Scunthorpe and the perfect manager have not done. At least he has a trophy to his name now in the FA Trophy, also another National League Manager of the Year award. To be fair, Scunthorpe have got minus £500,000 in the bank right now, so I guess money is a big issue for them. This perfect manager just seems like a bit of a fraud so far. He needs to learn how to be a manager, and to do that, he should probably subscribe to a TomFM channel, just like you guys should right now. And Arsenal are just yo-yoing still. They're 6th place this season. I don't understand what's going on. They did finish as low as 15th one season, which obviously is pretty poor. I think maybe the thing that's being highlighted right now is that the worst manager isn't necessarily going to get you relegated, but there's no consistency at all. I mean, just look at this. There's no consistency. So I'll be honest, I thought we'd see the perfect manager take Scunthorpe up to League One or the Championship, and we'd see the worst manager bring Arsenal down to the Championship or League One, and they'd just meet in the middle, and we'd see how they'd face off against each other. But 20 years in the future, all this perfect manager has done is take Scunthorpe to 13th in League Two. That's it. What a fraud. Their highest ever finish was 6th in League 2 in the 39-40 season, so a couple of seasons ago now. Obviously that was playoffs and they lost that, so I feel a bit let down by this man. Oh, but there has been some change for Arsenal. 20 years in the future, they came 2nd in the Championship, so they did get relegated at some point. The worst manager took them down. Obviously they're back up now because they've just come 2nd in the Championship, but that is significant. Also up the Imps, Lincoln City, I mean, have been relegated from the Championship, but we got to the Championship and that's what I can be happy about. Oh, they've been into the Championship a couple of times in the past decade or so. Back here in the 36-37 season, they came 19th, got relegated, came 3rd, lost in the playoffs, and then came 2nd to get back promoted. Then they came 13th in their 3rd season back in the Premier League, before dropping to 18th, and now back in the Championship, but promoted again in 2nd place. So this is the point where the managers are now going to switch clubs. So we're going to find out how they get on in their careers. And so in his first season at Arsenal, the perfect manager has taken him to 7th place, which is pretty good for a newly promoted team. The worst manager is now at York City, which suggests he's not done a good job at Scunthorpe. He's been sacked. Oh no, he wasn't even sacked. He just left the club. You can see here, departed as manager of Scunthorpe after agreeing terms with another club. Oh no, just no one wants to be in Scunthorpe. Maybe that's why they never did any good, because all the players turned them down because it's Scunthorpe. Clearly a sinking ship. They've just avoided relegation from League 2. Whereas Scarborough Athletic, by the way, who are doing insane in so many of these different experiments at the moment. We keep seeing Scarborough Athletic in so many videos doing amazingly well. This is my new favourite club. So I've actually gone another 9 years in the future. Let's go and see how these careers panned out for the perfect and worst manager. And so in the year 2051, the perfect manager no longer exists. Just not in the game. So retired at some point, so we'll find out when they retired. But the worst manager is still kicking around. He's not retired, he's unemployed right now, but he is still kicking around. And so after being hired by York, he was then sacked 18 months or so later for poor league positioning, which is not great. And then just over 2 years later, he was hired by Doncaster, but then was sacked less than a year later for losing the confidence of a dressing room. But at the time, Doncaster were a pretty decent League 2 club. Oh, no way. I've gone back to 2047 to find out when the perfect manager retired, and it wasn't long after he got sacked by Arsenal for getting them relegated. This guy is the biggest fraud I've ever seen in Football Manager. And I've managed Benjamin Šeško. Arsenal, by the way, are just fully stuck in the Championship. They've not been able to get back. They've currently just finished 7th in the Championship. So not even made the playoffs of the Championship, as you can see. Lincoln back in there, relegated again, but they are a yo-yo to the Championship. I'd take that as a Lincoln fan. But of course, the main thing we're here for is Scarborough Athletic, who are 16th in League 1. This team are just insanely good. So it turns out it's better to be the worst manager, because at least you win a Europa League along the way. But what if you had the perfect coaching staff at a non-league club? Well, that video is on screen for you right now to click on and enjoy.